All right, let's dive straight into this explainer because we are unpacking something truly wild today. We're looking at a completely unorthodox, incredibly fascinating cosmological framework proposed by independent researcher Gautam. It's a radical proposition. We're talking about a total reimagining of physics, cosmology, and honestly, the very structure of matter itself through what he calls the K7 theory, or the universal rule of 7.
But to really grasp this paradigm shift, we have to start with a fundamental question that is completely breaking modern astrophysics. Go outside, look up at the night sky. Everything we can actually see, touch, and measure, the stars, the planets, you, me, all of it makes up just a tiny, tiny fraction of the universe. The rest of it, it's completely missing. Modern science calls this invisible bulk dark matter. But despite decades of looking for it with our most advanced tech, no one can actually find this stuff.
And Powell's theory proposes that modern physics is stuck because our two best rulebooks, quantum mechanics and general relativity, simply do not play nice together. On one side, you have quantum mechanics. It deals with the microscopic world, doing things like assigning fractional spins to subatomic particles using highly abstract math, but it never actually points to a physical, geometric source for that spin. On the other side, general relativity handles the macroscopic stuff, cosmic gravity, massive galaxies, but it completely fails to explain that missing dark matter. It's like having two different languages that refuse to translate, and it has been driving physicists absolutely crazy for the last century.
So, our agenda for this explainer covers 5 main areas. First, the unification mystery. Second, the Trishul-Dhamru Matrix. Third, spin and dark matter. Fourth, transmuting copper to gold. And finally, the origins of reality.
Starting off with Section 1, the unification mystery, bridging the macro and the micro.
According to this framework, science has hit a wall because it relies way too much on abstract algebra, rather than looking for a unified geometric architecture to explain how the universe balances itself. Basically, instead of figuring out the physical shape of reality, we've settled for equations that work great on a chalkboard, but leave these massive, glaring physical holes in our understanding of how the universe actually operates.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Trishul-Dhamru Matrix, mapping the shape of reality.
This is the master key to the whole theory. Paul proposes a geometric matrix that mathematically links those giant planetary orbits with microscopic quantum realities, all under one single structure. Picture an hourglass shape. That's called the Dhamru. Now imagine it's intersected right at its narrowest pinch point by a 3-pronged trident, or a trishul. That extreme pinch point right in the middle, that is the 7th-dimensional singularity, and it acts as the anchor for a massive 14-dimensional cosmic canvas.
What's really brilliant here is how this maps out the 3 fundamental pillars of existence. You have the physical, the subtle, and the causal prongs, and they are all anchored precisely at that zero divergent center. They branch out perfectly from that single central origin point.
And this architecture right here explains exactly why traditional science is missing so much of the picture. Our traditional tools operate strictly within the 45-degree physical prong. That means our telescopes and our electromagnetic instruments are quite literally pointing in the wrong dimensional direction. We are hyper-focused on 45 degrees, which means we entirely miss the subtle mind prong at 90 degrees, and we are completely 100% blind to the causal prong sitting way out at 135 degrees.
Let's move to Section 3, spin and dark matter, solving the great divide.
So if we apply this geometry, quantum spin isn't just some abstract math property anymore. In Pollar's model, it is the actual, physical, angular momentum generated when a particle physically squeezes through that hourglass bottleneck. Think about it. As a particle moves through that highly compressed dimensional neck of the Dhamru, it's literally forced to rotate. This gives us a stunning physical explanation for particle behavior. It perfectly explains why matter particles, like electrons, are structurally trapped at the midpoint, while light particles, like photons, can zip freely across dimensions. See, fermions mathematically evaluate to a 1/2 spin because they are caught perfectly at the midpoint of this 14-dimensional balance. It literally takes 2 full rotations for them to return to their original configuration, purely because we are only observing them from one side of that 7-dimensional singularity. Bosons, on the other hand, have a full integer spin because they possess the geometric freedom to just cross right over the singularity. And that naturally brings us to this absolutely staggering number, 5.5 times. This represents the exact ratio of invisible dark matter to visible baryonic matter in our universe.
Powell's framework totally redefines what we are looking for. The theory argues that dark matter isn't actually matter at all. No wonder we can't find it.
It is actually a 5.5 times gravitational leak bleeding into our physical world from those hidden higher dimensions. Remember that causal prong at 135 degrees? The mass tensor from those unmapped higher dimensions mathematically projects into our 3D spatial coordinates. It creates a localized gravitational reflection. We feel the tug of the gravity, for sure, but because it doesn't interact with light, we are completely blind to its source.
Moving right along to Section 4, Transmuting Copper to Gold, the Alchemy of Resonance.
Pivoting from the massive cosmos down to the atomic level, Paul proposes that atoms are not the solid, static little blocks we were all taught about in grade school. Instead, they are dynamic energy flows, perfectly balanced between inward pulling and outward pushing forces. He calls this the principle of dual motion equilibrium. Centripetal force pulls inward to create cohesion, while centrifugal force pushes outward to create spatial volume. And if you interrupt this delicate active balance within the electromagnetically active vacuum, well, the physical entity destabilizes.
And this is where it gets really crazy. Think about tuning a radio station. You don't smash the radio with a hammer to get a new channel, right? You just change the frequency. Similarly, you apply an external resonance field to mathematically tune copper's baseline profile into the structural reconfiguration of gold. By introducing a highly precise electromagnetic modulation, you shift the internal frequency parameters of the atom. You aren't forcing some chaotic radioactive decay. You are theoretically allowing the entire system to just naturally reorganize its protons, neutrons, and electrons to perfectly match the structural backbone of a completely new element. Literally, geometric alchemy.
Finally, let's look at Section 5, the origins of reality, redefining darkness.
According to Paul's binary solar matrix concept, darkness is not an empty void, not at all. It is actually a hidden, unmanifested spectrum of colors, structurally phase-canceling each other out. You know how light waves can overlap and completely cancel each other out in optics? Paul extends that exact principle to the macrocosmos. Our observable positive sun projects active resonance, right? Well, a hypothetical negative sun maintains cosmic balance through passive resonance, where the exact same 7 fundamental colors exist, but they are perfectly phase-canceled. They are functionally unmanifested.
And this radically rethinks the role of black holes. They aren't just terrifying cosmic destroyers. In this model, they are wombs that birth light from a state of absolute zero-frequency stillness. So instead of a chaotic, accidental Big Bang explosion, the universe actually emerges through a highly controlled phase transition. It moves from absolute static intelligence, which Paul calls A-Spandana, meaning zero frequency, into the dynamic, buzzing frequencies of our reality. Black holes are the primary engines of this genesis, pulling in those passive frequencies and inverting them outward into active, resonant light.
It is a deeply provocative framework that really challenges everything we think we know. It forces us to wonder just how much of reality is hiding in plain sight. I mean, think about it. When you look up at the dark night sky, are you just seeing an empty void? Or are you actually looking at the perfect, passive blueprint of creation? If this geometric framework holds true, the universe isn't just a bunch of random math and missing pieces. It is a brilliantly tuned 14-dimensional instrument. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Until next time, keep questioning the shape of reality.